Hello and welcome. Today we are going to talk about MTHFR, which is a genetic variance that is actually very, very common. So my name is Nicole Smith. I'm a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner, and I am certified to practice in Washington State as an advanced registered nurse practitioner. I have board certifications in family practice and in orthopedics, and I'm a certified personal trainer and founder of Anti-Gravity Wellness. So MTHFR stands for methyl enterohydrofolate reductase, which is an enzyme in the body which is involved in the methylation pathway and the metabolism of folate, which is known as B9. When the system is disrupted from a genetic variation in the MTHFR genes, we can see an increase in cardiovascular disease, depression and anxiety, blood clots, difficulty clearing infections, miscarriages, and more. The prevalence of MTHFR genetic variants in the US population can vary depending on the specific variant and the population being studied, ranging anywhere from 10 to 40%. Having a genetic variance does not guarantee the individual will have any manifestations, as diet and lifestyle also play an important role. In this presentation, we will cover the basics of methylation, the implications of MTHFR genetic variances, prevalence, types of correlated effects, testing, and treatment options. This treatment is for information purposes only and is not meant to diagnose or treat. Please do consult a qualified healthcare provider for your specific needs. So what is methylation? Methylation is a fundamental biochemical process that involves the addition of a methyl group, which is CH3, to various molecules, including DNA, RNA, proteins, and lipids, fats. This process plays a crucial role in various physiological symptoms and biological functions in the human body. So here are some of the key aspects of methylation and the systems that it affects. We have epigenetics. Methylation of DNA is a critical component of epigenetic regulation. DNA methylation involves the addition of a methyl group to specific cytosine residues in the DNA molecule. And this modification can alter gene expression patterns, silencing or activating genes. So it will determine whether or not we're going to see something show up, like blue eyes versus brown eyes, or other things that happen in the actual cells themselves. It has a profound impact on various biological processes, including development, tissue differentiation, and the regulation of cellular function. This is how methylation, this whole process here, affects the development of the spinal cord. So why we give women B12 and make sure that they have good B12 sources and folic acid in their diet is this exact process, because these are necessary in order to turn on the correct genes for proper fetal development. And again, it's so very common. We just give everybody folic acid, right? And then we also have gene expression. So DNA methylation can influence the gene expression. Hypermethylation of promoter regions often results in gene silencing. So we can have too much methylation, while hypomethylation, not enough methylation, can lead to increased gene expression. It's opposite. This process is vital for the normal functioning of cells and the regulation of various physiological processes. And then we have neurotransmitter synthesis. Methylation is involved in the synthesis of neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and epinephrine. Proper neurotransmitter balance is essential for mood regulation and mental health. And this is how having a variance in there and not having enough methylation happening can lead to depression and anxiety. And then we also have detoxification. So methylation is a crucial part of the body's detoxification process, specifically in the methylation of toxins, drugs, and other foreign substances to make them more water soluble and easier to excrete. Histone modification is also part of this. Methylation of histone proteins, which package DNA, is another epigenetic mechanism that can influence the gene expression. It helps to determine whether a chromatin is in an open, accessible state or in a closed, repressed state. So, do we want those open or closed, depending on what we're trying to express in the genes to influence those factors? And then we have immune function. Methylation is involved in immune system regulation and function, influencing the response to infections and immune-related disorders. It affects cardiovascular health. Methylation plays a role in the regulation of homocysteine, which is an amino acid. I frequently test this in my clients. Abnormal methylation can lead to elevated homocysteine levels, which are associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. And then we have folate and B12 metabolism. Methylation reactions require adequate levels of folate and vitamin B12. Folate, in its active form, is necessary for the transfer of methyl groups in the methylation reactions. Remember, this is a methylation with the CH3. And then cell proliferation and repair. Methylation is critical for cell proliferation and DNA repair, essential for maintaining tissue integrity and preventing the formation of cancer cells. It's also involved with metabolism. Methylation reactions are involved in various metabolic processes, including the metabolism of lipids, which are fats, hormones, and amino acids. Super important. And then we have aging and longevity. Methylation patterns can change with age and have been linked to the aging process. Methylation patterns can be used as markers of biological age, like rings on a tree, apparently. And then we have hormone regulation. Methylation can influence the regulation of hormones, including sex hormones and thyroid hormones. And then inflammation and immunity. Methylation also plays a role in regulating inflammation and immune responses, helping to maintain a balanced immune system. Overall, methylation is a dynamic and essential process that influences many systems and the functions in the body. So proper methylation, super, super important. Look at all the things it does, right? So if we are under methylating, that's what we're going to focus on today, not over methylating. That is a separate topic. So if we are under methylating or lack methyl groups, we can experience the following symptoms: potential fatigue and exercise intolerance because of the low energy production, increased cardiovascular disease, stroke, and blood clots linked to high levels of homocysteine, fatty liver disease, increased risk of anxiety and depression due to decreased serotonin and dopamine production, inability to properly utilize selenium or excrete excess selenium, and this can affect your T3 levels, which need selenium to be converted from T4, leading to symptoms of low thyroid, OCD, or those constant thoughts that just won't go away, buildup of histamine in the body, and histamine intolerance. And this also contributes to anxiety, panic attacks, and estrogen dominance. High histamine actually stimulates the ovaries to release more estrogen. So we're going to have symptoms of high estrogen in the body, which is not very pleasant. We can see increased risk of neural tube defects, as I was talking about before, genetic expressions. There's an increased risk of neurodegenerative defects such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And there's also an increased risk of breast, colon, and other types of cancer. All right. So now we have the MTHFR. So let's get into what this actual enzyme is. And that's what this is. Folate reductase. It's an enzyme in the body involved in the methylation pathway and folate metabolism, vitamin B9. So this enzyme is responsible for converting 5,10 methyl enterohydrofolate to 5-methyl terahydrofolate, a crucial step in converting homocysteine to methionine, which is an essential amino acid. So remember that if we have too much homocysteine building up, it's not being converted into the methionine, which is great. We need that little amino acid, which is a protein. If we have too much homocysteine building up in the blood, though, then we run the risk of having a high risk for blood clots and heart problems. So, methionine is essential for various biological processes, including the synthesis of DNA, RNA, and proteins, and the methylation of multiple molecules, which plays a role in gene regulation. Proper functioning of the MTHFR enzyme is essential for maintaining healthy levels of homocysteine and providing the body with sufficient methyl groups for various methylation reactions. Genetic variations in the MTHFR gene can lead to reduced enzyme activity, potentially resulting in elevated homocysteine levels in the blood, which is associated with an increased risk of certain health conditions such as cardiovascular disease and neural tube defects in newborns. Two common MTHFR gene variants studied are C677T, T as in Tom, and A1298C as in cat. Individuals with these genetic variants may have a higher risk of MTHFR enzyme dysfunction. It's important to note that while MTHFR gene variations have been associated with certain health risks, their impact on an individual's health can vary, and many factors, including diet and lifestyle, also play a role in these conditions. So it's again that whole genetic theory of like you might have a loaded gun, but unless you pull the trigger, it's not going to go off. So it's the diet, lifestyle, and stressors that pull the trigger. If you have concerns about MTHFR gene variations and their potential impact on your health, it's advisable to consult with a healthcare provider or genetic counselor for personalized guidance and testing necessary. So let's talk about the prevalence of MTHFR. So the prevalence of MTHFR genetic variants in the US population can vary depending on the specific variant and the population being studied. Two common MTHFR genetic variants that we were just talked about, C677T and A1298C. So this is a very common genetic variance. 3 to 10% of the population have no genetic variants in these, meaning that only 3 to 10% of the population don't have any variant at all. So they're normal. So maybe they're not normal actually, because they're in the minority, they're not the majority. So the majority of people actually have variations in these genes. So with the C677T variant, this is the one that's most widely studied of the MTHFR variants. It involves a change in a single nucleotide in the MTHFR gene. That's all it takes, just one little tiny change. The frequency of this variant can vary among different ethnic groups. So in example, in general, around 30 to 40% of the US population is estimated to carry one copy of this variant, which is called heterozygous, and about 10% carry two copies, which is homozygous. The frequency tends to be higher in some populations, such as those of Hispanic or Caucasian descent, and lower in others. Now, the A1298C variant is another common MTHFR variant. Like the C677T variant, its prevalence can vary by ethnicity. The frequency of the A1298C variant in the US population is generally lower than that of the C677T. It is estimated to be less common, with approximately 10 to 15% of the population carrying one copy and a smaller percentage than that carrying two copies. It's important to note that the prevalence of MTHFR genetic variants can differ across ethnic groups and racial groups, and these estimates are approximate. Additionally, the impact of these variants on an individual's health can vary, and having one or two copies of the variant does not necessarily guarantee the development of health issues. The influence of these variants on health is influenced by various factors, including diet, lifestyle, and other genetic environmental factors. If you do have concerns, again, you're advised to consult with a healthcare professional who is familiar with this, or even do genetic testing if you think that you do have symptoms of this. That's something to look into. If you have no symptoms, though, and if you're not having any issues, we're not seeing any higher homocysteine, also look at your family history. If you have a family history of anxiety and depression, you're of European descent, and you also have heart disease in your family, you might very likely have some type of MTHFR genetic variants. Is it necessary to get testing? Not always. Honestly, frequently I just have people do a homocysteine test level. We look at everything else that's going on with them as well. And then we address their diet and lifestyle, make sure that they have a good source of methylated B vitamins so that your body doesn't have to work as hard to try and methylate those vitamins that you are consuming, because it just can't do it as efficiently. And we need a lot of them in order to run the body properly and detoxify and do all the things. All right. So, possible effects in the body. Like I was just kind of discussing, this is a chart right here that's talking about, like, especially the homocysteine level. So we need the MTHFR enzyme working properly to be able to throw a methyl group onto this homocysteine and turn it into methionine. And it kind of goes both ways. So we got our body proteins, we have food proteins, and then we go through this process. And then we also need to be able to excrete that out. And so there's other enzyme pathways here too. So it may not just be an MTHFR issue. You could have, maybe you have a little bit of that going on, but then maybe you have something going on with another enzyme down the road too that's also contributing to this. So it's very multifactorial. To keep that in mind, it's not just one thing that's causing a problem. It's usually many different things that are causing problems. So you're going to have, you can have elevated homocysteine levels. So MTHFR genetic variants can lead to reduced enzyme activity, which may result in higher levels of homocysteine in the blood. Elevated homocysteine is associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, as it may contribute to atherosclerosis and blood clot formation, which is beaten up on those arteries. Next, we can have neural tube defects. Women with MTHFR variants, especially if they carry 2 copies of the C677T variant, may have a slightly increased risk of giving birth to babies with neural tube defects such as spina bifida. Adequate folic acid supplementation before and during pregnancy can help mitigate the risk. Super, super important. And this is where genetic testing could be very beneficial. Pregnancy complications. MTHFR variants have also been associated with an increased risk of other pregnancy complications, such as preeclampsia, which is super high blood pressure that can be life-threatening for mom and baby during pregnancy, and recurrent pregnancy loss or spontaneous abortion. Folate supplementation and close monitoring during pregnancy may be recommended for women with these variants. Methylation and gene regulation. MTHFR plays a role in the methylation process, which is important for gene regulation and various cellular functions. Variants may affect the availability of methyl groups for these processes, potentially influencing gene expression and cellular functions. And then psychiatric and neurologic conditions. Some studies have explored potential links between MTHFR variants and psychiatric and neurological conditions, such as depression, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. The evidence is not conclusive, and the relationship is complex, often involving interactions with other genetic and environmental factors. And then we have other health conditions. MTHFR variants have been investigated in relation to a variety of other health conditions, including migraines, colorectal cancer, and more. However, research results have been mixed, and the associations are not always clear. It's again important to emphasize that having an MTHFR genetic variance does not guarantee the development of these health issues, and many individuals with these variants do not experience any related problems. Furthermore, the effects of MTHFR variants are often influenced by a combination of genetic and environmental factors, including diet and lifestyle. So let's talk about treatment. So the treatment management for MTHFR genetic variants, particularly the common C677T and A1298C variants, typically focuses on reducing associated health risk and promoting overall well-being, kind of like we do with just about everything else, right? The specific approach can vary depending on the individual's genetic profile and any related health concerns. So here are some general considerations for the management. First, we start with folate supplementation. For individuals with MTHFR variants, especially those with 2 copies of a variant or homozygous, folate supplementation may be recommended. Folate is the active form of vitamin B9, and some people with MTHFR variants have difficulty converting folic acid, a synthetic form of folate, to its active form. This has been put into our food supply, especially processed foods. They will put folic acid into like breads and things like that, pastas, because they have stripped it of all of its nutrients. And so this is a synthetic form that we put it back into. And it's also very common in supplements. So therefore, using methylfolate A bioavailable form of folate is often recommended. It's pre-methylated for the body, so it doesn't have to do the work. It's already done for it. A healthcare provider should determine the dosage and type of folate supplement based on individual needs. Creatine supplementation. 40 to 50% of all methyl groups are used to synthesize creatine in the body. Did you know that? Taking a creatine supplement, such as 5 grams per day, reduces methylation demand and can help lower homocysteine levels and reduce oxidative stress. It's not just for bodybuilders. And by the way, it will not make you blow up like a bodybuilder. It doesn't work like that. I could go into a whole other thing about creatine, but let's be on the scope of this right now. So, phosphatidylcholine is very important for removing fat from the liver and accounts for another 40 to 45% of all methylation and methyl group synthesis. This is how undermethylation can contribute to fatty liver disease. So, taking a phosphatidylcholine, choline, which is, or choline, however you want to say it, um, it's found in high concentration in egg yolk. That's one of the best forms of it. Actually, liver is the best form of it, but most people cannot really stomach liver. So whole eggs, 3 whole eggs a day will get you your daily dose of choline or choline. But if you're, let's say you can't have eggs or you just can't do liver, which you need like, 2 to 3 ounces, and you can mix that into your ground beef or something like that. And you can hide it pretty well, actually. Then taking a phosphatidylcholine supplement can help with that process. Dietary modifications. So, a diet rich in foods that contain natural folate is super important. So, these include leafy greens, lentils, beans, citrus fruits, and fortified cereals. Like I was talking about, they do put this into the diet because it is so prevalent. So, a diet that provides sufficient folate from natural food sources can help support the methylation process. B vitamins. So, in addition to folate, other B vitamins such as B12 and B6 are important for overall methylation. So, a healthcare provider may recommend B vitamin supplements to ensure adequate intake and proper metabolism. One of my favorites that I give a lot of my clients who I suspect probably have some type of underlying MTHFR genetic variants is one by Thorne, Thorne. Very clean brand, third party tested, NSF certified. And they have a methyl guard, and it's got a ton of B vitamins in it, all of the B vitamins basically, and they're all methylated for the body. So that's a really, really great one that I like to use as a supplement. And B vitamins are water soluble. So the body, if it doesn't need it, it'll just get rid of it. So risk of overdose is really, really, really low. Lifestyle and diet. A healthy lifestyle, including regular physical activity and a balanced diet, can play a significant role in managing health risks associated with MTHFR variants. Reducing alcohol consumption and avoiding smoking can also be very beneficial just overall because then that's less for the body to have to detox. Remember, MTHFR enzyme pathway is involved with detoxification in the body as well. Monitoring homocysteine levels. So, regular monitoring of homocysteine levels in the blood can help assess the impact of MTHFR variants on cardiovascular health in particular. Elevated homocysteine levels may be managed through dietary and lifestyle changes, as well as supplementation with B vitamins, especially that methylated B vitamin complex. Super helpful. Pregnancy planning. So, women with MTHFR variants who are planning to become pregnant should consult with a healthcare provider. They may be advised to take higher dose folate supplements before and during pregnancy to reduce the risk of neural tube defects, especially if they have homozygous. They've got 2 copies of the high risk ones. And let's add on top of there that, if a woman doesn't really eat a whole lot of meat, is kind of more on a vegan vegetarian style diet, that can definitely contribute to a lower intake of things like B12. And you probably need way more than when you are not pregnant. In addition to the fact that then you're not methylating, in addition to the fact that you're not getting enough of your diet. So that's definitely important to be aware of because you might need to take really high doses during pregnancy to make sure that we're giving the mom and the baby the best chance of proper development and a successful pregnancy. Medications. So in some cases, individuals with specific health conditions associated with MTHFR variants may be prescribed medications to manage those conditions. For example, some may be prescribed blood thinner medications if they have a high risk of blood clots due to elevated homocysteine levels. So this is pretty rare, but it can happen, especially if you have recurrent blood clots. Then we might need to put you on something to just kind of thin things out because that will kill you. It's important to note that the management of MTHFR genetic variants should be individualized and based on specific genetic profiles and health circumstances. Again, always, always, always consult with a professional. So let's talk about MTHFR testing. Um, they can be confirmed through genetic testing, specifically through DNA analysis. So, two common MTHFR genetic variants that are often tested for that we've been talking about, C677T and the A1298C variants. So, there are types of tests commonly used to confirm MTHFR genetic variants. We have genetic testing or DNA testing. This is the most common and direct, accurate method for confirming MTHFR genetic variants. It typically involves the following two steps. So we have a sample collection, or the following steps. A sample collection where we collect a sample of your DNA, usually through the blood or a saliva sample. And then some genetic services offer at-home DNA collection kits that involve providing like a saliva sample or like a swab in the mouth. And then DNA analysis, the DNA sample is then analyzed to identify specific variations in the MTHFR gene in the presence of the C677T and A1298C variants can be detected through this analysis. And then reporting the results of the genetic test will indicate whether you have one or two copies of the variants or if you do not have either variant. And then from there, you can either, speak with your health provider or you can even consult with a genetic counselor so that they can kind of go over your family history, walk you through a genetic test if you've had one done, or order that for you and go through those results with you. And then provide recommendations based on your genetic profile and your symptoms and your risk factors. All right, and then preconception or prenatal testing. In some cases, genetic testing for MTHFR variants may be recommended as part of preconception or prenatal testing, especially for women planning to become pregnant that have any type of risk factors or history of issues. If you've had a spontaneous abortion before, if it runs in your family, this is something that you might consider doing to see what's going on there. And then again, it's not that you can't get pregnant, you can't have a healthy baby. It's just that you're going to need to make sure that you're supporting your body as best you can through that process. And that might take some extra work than it would for somebody else. We can also look at a methylation panel. This is a functional medicine panel and shows the downstream effects of the methylation pathway and can reveal some deficiencies in this fashion. So it can then inform diet and nutritional supplementation areas that need attention. And this is a blood test that costs around $235. As it is a functional medicine test, they are typically not covered by insurance. And then homocysteine monitoring. So this is the blood test that measures the amount of homocysteine in the blood. We should see improvements in homocysteine levels decrease with treatment. And this test will cost around $10. Not too bad. So it's important to note, again, genetic testing is not typically a routine part of general health assessment, is usually considered when there are specific medical or family history concerns related to these variants. Once you have the genetic test results, discuss them with the healthcare provider or genetic counselor who can provide personalized guidance and recommendations for managing any health risks associated with MTHFR variants is essential. It can help you develop a plan for monitoring and addressing any potential health issues and can also help to inform treatment. So let's say that you think you might have MTHFR. How do you get diagnosed? Who do you talk to? You want better understanding, treatment plan? Well, that is something that we do at Anti-Gravity Wellness, and we are accepting new clients. We take a holistic approach to tailor treatment to the individual for their best results. So you can scan the QR code here, get to our flow page. Here is our number to the clinic. Antigravitywellness.com is our web address, and you can actually book from there. And then we're located in Richland, Washington. I do have in-person clinic days. And we also do virtual visits as well. And then if you use Anti-Gravity 10, you can save 10% off of your next service. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you do have any questions, you can definitely pop those down into the comments or contact us if you have any other further questions or would like to set up an appointment. Thank you so much.